everyone. This is Carrie Beck with How to Homeschool My Child and Homeschool Superheroes. And I'm back last day, the entire featured week, and we're going to be talking to moms. This is all about moms and helping them give their kids a leadership education, but also want to talk a little bit about how do we reduce all the overwhelm. And I've got a few ideas, but as you jump on here, oh my gosh, phone is ringing. Let me turn that down. As you jump on, tell us who you are and tell us, leave a comment and say, what's the one thing that causes the most overwhelm in your homeschool? Because if you've got something and I'm not talking about it, we might as well talk about what you're struggling with, what your challenge is. So as you get on, feel free to do that. Now, what I want to do, and I do this every time, except once I forgot the picture, I do want to tell you who my kids are because we homeschooled for 10 years. I was a public school teacher for 6 years, and my kids are all grown. So I'm not talking about homeschooling and I'm in the middle of it. We've actually done things. When I talk about leadership education, it's all about the things that I actually did with my kids. And so I just want you to know that we had good days and we had bad days, but I do share the experiences, so I'm not right there like with preschoolers and trying to tell you how to do high schoolers. So anyway, here's my family. Most of you have seen them. This is Gentry, the middle one. She's married to Andrew, and they have Landry, the baby. And this is Ashley, our oldest. She is married to Jesse, and they have Faith and Elizabeth. And here's Hunter, the baby, the tallest, the biggest. Anyway, he is not married and he lives in Houston. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to talk a little bit about moms and leadership education for just a few minutes because that's what the whole week has been about. And then I'm going to talk about reducing overwhelm and give you about 3 tips that have worked for me, that helped me a lot. And so if you have a specific thing that really overwhelms you in your homeschool, feel free to put a comment in there. Yesterday, I'm so sorry, I was scrolling for comments and I couldn't find any of them, and then I closed out and there they were. So let's just talk about leadership education. That's what we started with. There are 4 steps in leadership education. We have got a firm foundation of character. We talked about that yesterday because a good leader has good character. Then we talked about a love of learning and the tools of learning because a leader is actually a lifelong learner. They're constantly learning so that they can solve problems, so they can work with people. Next step is teach our kids how to think. The public schools prepare them on what to think. And we want to go beyond that so they're actually using their little noggin up here and they're learning to think and solve problems and make wise decisions. And that was my masterclass on Tuesday. I also hit a little bit in that masterclass on step 4, and that is moms. That is you. Moms are really step 4. So let's take a few minutes and talk about that, and then we'll talk about overwhelm. So, sorry, I don't know why I was reaching for my book. When we talk about raising leaders and we talk about getting our kids to actually think and have a love of learning, the first thing you as a mom need to do is model that for yourselves. I mentioned that in probably every single one of these workshops, these classes, lives, whatever you want to call them. You need to model a love of learning. You need to model that you know the tools of learning and you use them in your daily life, and how to think. In a nutshell, I want to talk about how to think for just a second. And this is a 3-step process. We want to teach our kids to be able to read and then be able to write about what they're reading and then to discuss it. That is what gets them to think, not a multiple choice test, not a true false, or even a fill in a blank. We want our kids to eventually be able to discuss it. So what I really encourage moms to do in the very beginning is to try out that process for 2 or 3 months, and don't even teach your kids. Even the tools of learning and a love of learning. Maybe you need to really get into it yourself and maybe try some of the tools of learning. Try some of the love of learning steps yourself so that you can then be able to model it and be able to teach that or inspire your kids. When it comes to the read, write, and discuss model, what I tend to tell moms is choose a book that you would be interested in and read it. And every day you read, write 1 page in your reading journal. And then discuss it with someone, maybe your spouse, maybe your friends, I wouldn't do with your kids. You're trying this out for yourself. And then I would repeat that with at least 3 or 4 books. You can use children's literature if you want at the beginning, but before it's all over, you need to be sure that you're reading a book on your reading level, because you're expecting your kids to read a book on their reading level and write about it and discuss it. So you need to go through the process and see what it's like on your reading level. You will be a lot more empathetic and sympathetic to your kids if you will do that. So when you're getting started with leadership education, remember step 4 is moms. Mom, you need to model a love of learning, the tools of learning, and then our critical thinking 3-step process. Read a book, write about it, discuss it. After you've gone through about 4 books, then I think you're ready to teach that process to your kids. And so I really think that is what, if you haven't gone through this process, these steps beforehand, you need to go through that first and then start to teach your kids. So that's in a real nutshell. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, let me just, before I go on to Overwhelm, people are popping in and out. If you have something that is overwhelming you in your homeschool, please put a comment there and let's talk about that rather than what I maybe am assuming. Now, I do get a lot of feedback. I have sign-up forms for all my classes, and I usually always put a question in there about challenges, just so I can keep a feel on what is going on with moms right now. Before I move to the Overwhelm, I do want to say that we have a Christian leadership education course. It's 12 weeks long. It includes our Raising Leaders, Not Followers, and this goes over the overview, our character, our love of learning, tools of learning, and transition to independent learning. Then we have Teach Our Kids How to Think, and that goes over high school level basically, and our 3-step process. And then it goes on into mentoring and college and all sorts of things. It is 12 weeks and it is bite-sized so that you can actually get something done each week. We tell you exactly what part of the video to watch, which book to read in the pages, what pages in the study guide. And we even give you a special book called Hop Off the Conveyor Belt, which are real life tips and tricks to help you put this into place. Real life homeschool moms that actually put leadership education into place, and they sent in tips and all. We actually gave away one of these classes, these courses, and it ended yesterday, and so I chose the winner this morning, and that goes to KL Wheeler, and I see that she just got on. I get disappointed and surprised. Oh, okay, we'll talk about that in just a second. So congratulations to KL. She won, and I will be enrolling her in our 12-week course. But you can still get it, and I'll put a link to that course as well if you would like to go ahead and enroll yourself. So the other thing, we'll mention that in a minute. Okay, so I get disappointed and surprised. That's more of a trust. Okay, let's see. I get disappointed and surprised when they do something and fear rises up like, oh my gosh, you can't grow up like this. Okay, so she has got a good point, and I'm going to start with her comment, and then I'll move to some others. We'll even see if the comments, well, I don't know what happened yesterday, but so sometimes we get afraid. Sometimes we're watching our kids and we can get overwhelmed inside thinking, one, we're messing them up. We're not giving them enough homeschooling. Are we giving them the best education? What do we do? But all of that's going on here. I will say that's a really good point. Our overwhelm generally starts here. And I was just walking this morning with God, and I prayed when I walk, and I was talking to him about those inner chats and all those things, and I would be going, why am I having this conversation? Like I want to go deal with something that I have no control over. And I realized that I really do have to take my thoughts captive. One of the things I recommend for anyone, but moms in particular, is that you put on the armor of God every morning. You pray it over yourself and your family, and I do that. And when I get to the helmet of salvation, there are several things that I may pray, but one of those is the verse that says, God, and I say, God, please take every thought captive to obey you and to put off pride and human reasoning. It comes out of 2 Corinthians, I believe. And I also say, please let each one of us think on what is good and lovely and pure and beautiful, excellent, and praiseworthy, out of Philippians. Those two verses alone help center me and help me get my focus on God. The other thing I do pray is just that we will focus our eyes on Jesus, keeping our minds set above and set on the Holy Spirit. Those are a bunch of little things that all have to do with our mind and our helmet of salvation that protects our mind. So I would really encourage you to pray through the armor of God. I think that alone can reduce some overwhelm. It may not sound like, oh, I'm going to go do this activity, but I can guarantee you, I've been doing this actually for about 3 years. I was introduced to this concept 3 years ago, Labor Day. I ended up in this group. I was looking for some stuff online, and I ended up at Rejoice Marriage Ministries, and these people have had a huge impact on my life. And one of the things she says is, you get dressed every morning in your clothes. We don't see anyone walking outside without clothes. Why do we not put on God's clothes? Why do we not put on God's armor? And I can tell you right now that when you put on God's armor and you pray it over your children and your spouse, it will make a difference. And I know it makes a difference in me because I catch those little inner chats all the time, the things that are overwhelming me. They may not be the same things that overwhelm you, but a lot of our overwhelm really does start here. And I appreciate KL asking that question. Amen. Studying Armor of God this coming week for church. Thanks for the confirmation. I've learned a lot in the last 4 years. You know, the enemy is real. If you are homeschooling, if you are married, if you are raising your kids to godliness, you have a target. You don't have a target on your back. You have a target right here. The enemy wants to destroy you, and you have got to fight with God's armor. It just says we don't fight with fleshly armor, and that's in Corinthians. I sort of butcher my verses when I'm here in front of the computer going live, but we don't fight with the world's armor. We fight with God's armor, and part of that is putting on truth, righteousness, faith, peace, salvation, and fighting our battles with the sword. And I would actually add the last one is praying. He says in there, pray in the Spirit and pray, persevere in prayer. And so I do that on a regular basis. Okay, so that's one thing. One of our overwhelms really is, and I would say the beginning of all overwhelms starts right there. Now, I will give you a few little other like real life tips, and that is to reduce your activities. Let's talk about that. We're going to talk first about outside, so that may or may not affect you right now with the pandemic. So I don't know where you are, but we can come and go. We have to wear a mask when we go somewhere in public, but we can come and go. I actually was at Gentry's house, my daughter, a few weeks ago, and as I was driving in, they had little league football practices. They had little kids practicing football out there. So I don't know where you are, but when I say reduce activity, I mean like reduce the number of activities. The kids were little, and I was taking the girls to dance practice, and then they were going to soccer practice on the same day. And I was like, what are you doing? You are way too active. We need to reduce the activity. It was stressing me out. And so I told the kids, now we finished out that season of whatever we were doing. I said, next year we're choosing. You can have 2 activities a year, and that's it, plus your piano lesson that I'm choosing. And that's it. That was all. And they had to learn to make decisions. And they made decisions on, just depending on year to year, what they were actually going to be involved in. I also think it's important that we reduce the number of activities in our homeschool. I'm like most of y'all, I want to do everything, but what happened? I got stressed out and overwhelmed when I tried to do every single activity. In my group, How to Homeschool My Child, I have a Facebook group, and I'll even put that in here, and you're welcome to join me over there. But one of the questions this week is, do you have a set schedule or a rotating schedule? And it's really interesting to see everyone's responses, because a lot of people say, well, there are the daily subjects of language arts, reading and writing and spelling, and math. And then there are the other subjects that we rotate, which may be history and science or social studies, music, art, it just sort of depends. And there are a lot of people saying that. Some people have a completely rotating schedule. Some are, we got to do everything every day. I want to tell you that as a public school teacher, I did not do every subject every single day. We have this idea in our head that the people in the school do everything, and they don't. I am an example of that. So find a schedule that works and work in margin, work in free time. Your kids need downtime. Do you know one of the best ways that you can inspire creativity is by letting your children get bored. When they get bored, they actually become creative. There's a book called Bored, Nothing to Do, and it's about two boys that are sent out of the house, and so they are bored, and they end up building an airplane and flying it out of all the little pieces around the house, and then they get in trouble for building the airplane, and they have to take it all apart and put the pieces back to wherever they go. And I have a review of that on my website, and I will put that here. But I think that's a really good point, that when we let our kids have free time, let them be bored, let them go outside and play with sticks and build forts or build a tent in the living room with sheets. There are so many things that are good that we fill up our kids' time with activity after activity. We fill up our homeschool with activity after activity. And I would really encourage you, as someone whose kids have already graduated, reduce the number of activities. I remember as a child, we came home from school and we played outside. We didn't have all these screens, I know you all think it, but it really can become a problem. And so I'd really encourage you to reduce the number of activities. And then, I'm not going to go into it, but get control of this thing. You're the parent. You should be able to get control of it. And if you can't, then you need to rethink who's really the parent in your house. And so I have a whole workshop or a whole thing, Facebook Live I did in our group that I'll also put a link to as well if you're interested in that as far as screens go. And then if you're a checkbox person, then you're trying to get everything done. Again, get rid of, yes, we need to get things done, but find out what is primary. What's the most important thing for you in your homeschool? For us, if we got Bible devotions done at breakfast and we read aloud, pretty much I would be happy. Now, generally speaking, we got more done. But if my day fell apart and those are the only two things I got done, I would be happy. And we would just make up for it the next day. Then, okay, here we're going to go back to these things to reduce overwhelm. Social media. You need to schedule it, and you need to put a timer on and not spend so much time. And here we are on social media. Now, I will tell you, I have personally been off of my feed on Facebook since the 1st of June, and it is freeing. I am not missing anything. I really don't know what's going on in the world half the time unless my kids tell me, because that's where I got my news, was on Facebook and what's CNN or Fox News or whatever. And so I have to sort of go searching to find out what's going on in the world. But it is so nice. I haven't been on Instagram at all since then. And I know I need to for a business standpoint. I have stayed on Facebook for business because this is my interaction with homeschoolers. Here at Top Picks, over at my How to Homeschool My Child, when we did Homeschool Superheroes, that's where I've had to stay on. I am dreaming and wishing for a week that I have no social media responsibilities and I have a social media manager that could even take care of it for my business, just so I could get off of it. But I really encourage you, put a timer on if you're going to get on and just scroll down that feed, all right? And even when you're looking for homeschool stuff, put a timer on. I actually have an office right upstairs through that door and up the stairs, but I have a Hey Google sitting right over there. And so if I need to go up and work on Facebook or email, I say, Hey Google, oh, it's going to do it. Never mind, I can't say it. I tell them to set a timer for 25 minutes. And then I go upstairs, and the only way I can turn it off is to come back downstairs and tell it to stop. And so that has really helped me be controlled over the amount of time. I did not want my kids to remember my face, and at the time, the back of my head staring at a computer. That was my fear. We didn't have smartphones, we had dumb phones, but that was my fear. I didn't want them to have the memory of mom always looking at the computer. So I scheduled my time. In the morning, I didn't get on the computer. That was our homeschool time, and we were focused on reading aloud and Bible devotions and doing our different school subjects and doing whatever activities. At lunchtime, Then in the afternoon, they could work independently. They could go to their friends. They could go to their practice or whatever. And that's when I would work on the computer. And I was working on the computer. We didn't really have much Facebook. And so I actually was doing our QuickBooks, doing our work to keep our businesses going. And so anyway, that's how I took care of this. I really had to make sure I limited my time in front of devices. Now, so less activities. Quit worrying about check boxes, social media, get control of that. And then remember that most overwhelm starts here. So what do you want to do? You want to put your armor of God on. You need to put it on yourself every day and pray it over your kids and your family as well. So before I leave, just a few closing remarks. We do have our Christian leadership course available. Our character charts are still available, and they are actually on sale. The whole training kit is on sale for $15 through tonight. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, and here's another version of it if you want to know, they're all based in the Bible, and you get to choose what happens. Watch yesterday's video on character training. And I talked about character training with preschool and toddlers, elementary, and older kids and teens. And then I introduced our character charts and showed you how they work. So if y'all have any questions, go ahead and put them here. Oh, wow, we got some more stuff. Reduced activities. Yes, yes, yes. So, and we do have seasons of life, like KL was saying. So, and when my kids were younger, I didn't want to be driving every afternoon to a different activity, and I certainly didn't need to be driving to 2 or 3 activities. One other thing we did to reduce, I will say, is we cheered each other on as a family. So if someone had a soccer game, we all got in the car and we went to the soccer game. You didn't just stay home. When Hunter was in high school, he went to a private Christian school his last 3 years, and Steve was going deer hunting. And I was going to go to San Antonio, 3 hours away, because he had a football game on that Friday night. Both my girls who were in college said, yes, Mom, we'll go with you. And so we got in the car and we ended up renting a hotel and went shopping the next day. And so we went and cheered them on. And y'all are going to think I'm silly, but I'm going to show you something. This picture right here was taken at that football game. And that is just a memory for us of just the times, and we always wanted to support each other. And so the reducing of activity, we may have all driven over there, but we were doing it all as a family. So I probably should have grabbed that before I started. I didn't even know I was going to share that story. Okay, that's it. I've been rambling way too long. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Christian Leadership for Moms, get started. You need to go through the process of character and love of learning, tools of learning, and our 3-step process in mentoring. Then begin your leadership education with your kids. I'm Carrie Beck with How to Homeschool My Child and Homeschool Superheroes. Y'all have a great day.